Once upon a time, in a small, secluded, nestled shack deep within the heart of a dense forest, there lived a man known as the Woodsman. From his childhood, he had always been an enigma, a dark cloud that loomed over the otherwise peaceful community. Whispers of his sinister nature spread like wildfire as tales of missing children and unsolved murders haunted the townsfolk. The Woodsman's story began many years ago when he was just a young boy. His given name was IEM MORDER. He grew up in a broken home surrounded by violence and neglect. His parents, consumed by their own demons, paid little attention to their son, leaving him to wander the forest alone. It was there, amidst the towering trees and eerie silence, that the darkness within IEM grew and take root. As the years passed, IEM's thirst for blood grew insatiable. He would lure unsuspecting victims into the depths of the forest, where he would unleash his sadistic desires upon them. No one was safe from his twisted games, as he revealed and reveled in the terror he inflicted upon his prey. The legend of the Woodsman echoed far and wide, reaching the ears of a group of thrill-seekers who were drawn into the macabre. Intrigued by the tales of a serial killer, they decided to embark on a journey to the heart of the forest, determined to uncover the truth and prove the stories were never real. The truth behind the legend lay dormant ahead of them, just waiting. Armed with cameras and sheer curiosity, the group set out on their treacherous expedition. The trees and winds seemed to come alive around them, the rustling leaves whispering warnings of the impending danger that awaited them. Even the birds in the trees made no sound, as the moonlight glimmered on their yellow eyes. On the ground lay only dead carcasses of animals that had once roamed the hidden trails. But they pressed on, their hearts pounding with a mixture of fear and anticipation. Finally, after 3 days of relentless hiking and following the hidden trails marked by blood and bones, the group navigated through the labyrinthine woods. They stumbled upon a dilapidated wooden shack covered with the ancient symbols written in blood, hidden deep within the undergrowth. It was said to be the Woodsman's lair, the place where he had committed his heinous acts. The air grew heavy with sweat and paranoia as they cautiously approached the decrepit structure. As they entered the shack, a chilling silence enveloped them. The walls were adorned with grotesque paintings and depicting scenes of unimaginable horror. The stench of decay lingered in the air, causing their souls to churn. It was then that they noticed a faded photograph tucked away in a corner. To the horror, the photograph revealed a much older version of the Woodsman, standing alongside none other than John Wayne Gacy, the infamous clown killer, their hands raised in the air, holding bloody heads of their lifeless victims that laid in pieces on the ground below them. In the distance background, behind a tree, a black-haired man that looked very similar to Charles Manson watched with a devilish grin. He was holding the hand of a young teenage boy named Jim that resembled a young Jim Morrison. They were not mentioning any articles or documents found in the shed, which felt as even a bigger unsolved case. The realization struck the group like a bolt of lightning. The Woodsman was not only just a local legend, he was also the notorious Zodiac killer, responsible for a string of unsolved murders that had plagued the nation. One member of the group found parts of a diary that spanned over 30 years of this killer as a child, known as IEM MORDER, that grew up in a German family. Over time, he changed locations and names very often and had made connections and friends with other serial killers throughout the world. as they all could relate and share ideas of their crimes and how they escaped. Their excitement turned to sheer terror as they realized the gravity of their discovery. A young boy named IEM MORDER had become the woodsman, and the legends were true, and he had been living several different lives. His true identity hidden beneath many layers of darkness. The group's morbid expedition documentary had led them straight into the clutches of a monster. Realization now sinking in by the second. The shack began to shake as the only door slammed shut, and hanging animal body parts stared at them with yellow eyes and laughing. The walls closed in, trapping them within its haunted embrace. The sinister laughter echoed through the air. Now terrified and knowing they were about to die, one girl from the group looked up from the shadows of the ceiling. While her friends lay screaming, and melting flesh consumes them as green acid is released and sprayed from the metal pipes along the walls. She peered close in the corner, hiding under a broken desk, as a large man is laughing and hanging in the rafters of the ceiling above, with a bloody axe in one hand. Her only choice now is to run into the acid and die, or wait for it all to be over with and let the woodsman have his own way with her. Screams penetrated the forest as only the evil birds in the trees outside watched, as if waiting for food. One by one, they fell lifeless, and now a meal for nature in the unforgiving forest. Unknowingly, the girl had passed out in fear. She awoke in the shack alone. Bodies were removed, floors and walls cleaned. Had this been a dream? Wiping her tears, she found the keys to the group's vehicle and a folder filled with the evidence and photos of IEM MORDER and other killers. Not looking back, she drove and snickered with a mumble. She is about to escape. At that moment, she stopped to look back at the shack and back at the photos on the seat beneath her. Lifting a page of the woodsman's identity, she noticed a photo of her as a young girl, standing beside her brother. Sound of silence fills her pores. Now, reality sets in. IEM MORDER was once her brother that killed their family years before. She had been adopted into a new family. She screamed and accelerated forward. Suddenly, jumping in front of her with an axe, the woodsman swung and missed her. As she swerved and suddenly drove off the cliff to the side of the large forest edge, exploding and killing her instantly. The woodsman stood watching, then wiped the blood from his mouth. Now, as birds began swarming down the body of the ravine, the accident below the canyon to finally feed upon their feast. The woodsman looked down at his feet and picked up the folder and photos that fell before the vehicle crashed. He looked down at the photo of him and his sister during their childhood and many years ago. He licked the photo and shoved it into his back pocket of his pants, and he began walking back to the shack. As the camera slowly pans out, we hear him say, "I'll be seeing you again, Tracy, under different circumstances." And so, as the woodsman continued his reign of terror, his legend grows with each passing year. He became a ghostly figure, haunting the mountain forest, forever etching his name into the carcass bones of the dead, animals scattered throughout the hills. This tale waits patiently to unleash its flavor of darkness upon the world, because evil is never truly gone, and the story is never truly over. Yours truly, IEM MORDER.